and we're bringing you the second episode on our series on interdisciplinary pedagogy through the medium of project-based learning. So first of all, we need to begin to think in an interdisciplinary manner. And how do we do that? With the simple units and simple topics and concepts that we encounter in our syllabus. So I am going to illustrate one example to you today through this simple unit of sound. That's what I'm going to do. Basically, my attempt is to make you realize that with anything at any age and any level in our syllabus and in our school, we can create a unit of inquiry whereby we start thinking interdisciplinary fashion. So before you begin to do that, there are three things that we need to remember, three key points whenever we are embarking on project-based learning. The first one is, do you have an essential question in mind which this unit of inquiry is attempting to answer? So since I am going to be working on sound, my essential question could be, how does sound impact our lives? Just as an example. My second key point whenever I'm embarking on a interdisciplinary inquiry project would be, what is really my end goal in doing this? Because I'm spending time and energy in doing something like this, I need to have a purposeful goal at the end of the entire exercise. Here I might want to say that I want my students to understand the interconnectedness of all the disciplines, because that is the way we find solutions to problems in life later on, not the kind of problems that children end up solving in schools. Okay. And the third key point for doing PBL in an interdisciplinary fashion is, at the end of it, what is the public product that I have conceived of that the students are going to make and present to the public at large. With these three aims clearly articulated in my mind and shared with my students, I then begin to ask the students, what is something that you might want to explore through interdisciplinary approach and using the project-based learning? It's always a good idea to ask the students for something they want to explore and not really the teacher suggesting. I do not have a bias on either of these two ways of approaching a unit. I am suggesting what research really recommends. So if it is sound that I'm exploring, I might want them to look at the soundless world, that there is a world of people who can't hear, and what is that like? So first of all, I'm trying to see what are the separate groups that I can create by first creating components that need to be explored with the unit sound. Then of course there is the physics of sound, which takes care of transmission and echo and sound waves and so on. But there is also a biology of sound, because then I begin to consider the stethoscope, the heartbeat, sonography, the structure of the ear, the nervous system, how do we really hear, how is the hearing process, as well as I might take them to the child's life, connected to the child life. They all have pets probably, or they have seen small animals elsewhere. So what is the hearing range of animals is something else I might want to explore. I can move to economics from science and say, what are the sounds you hear in economics? And therefore there are sounds, in environment, not economics. What are environmental sounds? And therefore I might talk about rustling leaves and whistling winds and singing streams and so on. And so those are the environmental sounds we might want to explore. Then there is an idea of sound pollution in the environment, as well as what are the varying decibel ranges in schools, in factories, in places of worship, in libraries, in roads. So they see the various decibels and probably also measure that. What about sound innovation? And this is where they can come up with instruments for measuring the decibel sounds, as well as perhaps make a musical instrument. And if we're talking about sound, how can music be far behind? And therefore, learning to play an instrument perhaps, understanding the effect of music on mood, all Indian classical music and as well as Western classical, and all music actually. Music has no boundaries. It's all based on what kind of a mood does a certain kind of tune or note generate, and we talk about that, as well as the idea of harmony and cacophony. Let me take this further and continue with the exploration of sound across various other subjects. So in history, what are the sounds? So there's the sound of bugles and trumpets and drums and nagada, and there is a war cry, Dhamma Ghosh, Beri Ghosh, Har Har Mahadev. These are all sounds that they hear of history. Then there are sounds of geography, like the bang of the tectonic plates, maybe for an earthquake, or the crashing of the waves on the sea, like we know the tsunami, the singing streams, whistling winds, and also perhaps the eruption of volcanoes. So there are sounds that I'm taking across the disciplines now. What about language sounds? We have poetic devices like onomatopoeia, alliteration, Chandu ke chacha ne chandu ki chachi ko chandi ke chammat se chutney chatai. We've known this since childhood. Or seashells, she sells seashells sitting on the seashore. This is alliteration, and so there are sounds here. Dhvani Vigyan, Ucharan, diction, intonation, accent, and right from babyhood we introduce children to rhymes, rhythm, claps, and musical sounds. What about economic sounds? I might explore this as market crash and possibly the sound of money as well as cash registers ringing. What about physical education? So there is clapping, crunching, jumping, lejim, inhale, exhale, all kinds of PT sounds that you hear on the field for physical education. And musical sounds again, which is string instruments, percussion instruments, bow instruments, pitch, timbre, rhythm. As you can see, I've already explored so many dimensions with one simple unit, which is sound. What am I going to do next is the question. Once I do this, these are the guiding steps for project-based learning. Number one, decide on a theme by taking your students' opinions. That's my recommendation. 2, work out the various components of the project like I just demonstrated with the unit on sound. Number 3, step 3 is form groups and assign one component to be explored by each group so that you have a structured activity for PBL by marrying all the disciplines into the project. Then you have to guide every group to achieve their goal. From time to time, review it. You also must make sure that some of your curriculum goals are also achieved. But remember, even though you try to do all this, you will still need to budget time for teaching about sound and physics. You can't ignore that, because in the process of doing interdisciplinary, you might otherwise miss some core concepts. So that too needs to get done. But here there is a beauty of doing it in connection with many subjects. From time to time, it is the teacher's job as a facilitator to review the progress of every group and give them a feedback. And finally, set up an event, the presentation of the final findings and the product as has been now developed and curated by all the students' work, collated together with the help of the teacher. That is something which you display to the public. Those are some of the steps you follow in project-based learning. However, one example is not enough, and therefore in the next episode, I will be detailing out how do you now take this into the classroom and what does every group do. So watch out for that. We will be bringing you one episode every Sunday for interdisciplinary learning through the project-based approach. Okay? If you like what we're presenting, do like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Signing off for now. Thank you.